Hello, hi, and welcome. If you're new here, my name is Mo, and today's video is so exciting. I love when I get a chance to talk about books on my channel. I don't do it that often. In fact, we're talking about The Secret History again, which my only bookish video on my channel is about The Secret History. You can click here to watch it. I made a 3-hour plus video explaining the entire plot. Would love to get that to 10K views. It's at like 7 something. Put my heart, sweat, and soul into that video, okay? And I love it. I literally like re-listen to it. I'm like that person that like rewatches their story, but it's like their YouTube videos. I don't want YouTube to like think I'm like being saucy. Today we are doing something fun and we're talking about The Secret History again, but we're talking about my theories and my Easter eggs, or Easter eggs I feel like that are in the book. And I love talking about this. Donna Tartt is such a secret little squirrel. She loves to hide little Easter eggs, and everything in this book is based on real people and her real life experiences at Bennington College, which in my video, I forgot to freaking put a picture of who I was talking about, but I mentioned in the beginning, main characters, Bunny, who unfortunately, if you haven't read the book, spoiler alert, oops, is based off of a famous American writer, and he also wrote a little intro in the beginning of the book, and that is Bret Easton Ellis, the author of American Psycho. So yes, but today we are talking about all of my theories, my opinions, and little things that I picked up about The Secret History by Donna Tartt. So let's get into it, because I love, what's that TikTok audio? It's like, somebody asked me about my theories. I love talking about my theories. This first one is something I talked about on TikTok before, and I never see anybody talk about this, and I just feel like this is like the biggest like glaring Easter egg, and maybe I'm just the first person to realize it, and like Donna Tartt will send me like a signed copy of her new book, or you guys already noticed this and I'm stupid. But the first theory is Charles and Camilla's names are symbolic references to Prince Charles and his lover Camilla, hinting at a secret affair between the two throughout the entire book. I was reading this book, I was like, oh my god, Charles and Camilla, that's so interesting. I reread this book all the time. I'm always listening to the audiobook to go to sleep. It's genuinely one of my favorite books of all time. But I'm also messy Bessie, and I was watching the Meghan and Harry doc. And I remember I was just thinking like, Charles, Camilla, where do those names sound familiar? Like, why is the name Charles and Camilla just like baked in my head? And then I was like, The Secret History. And then I was like, they were having a secret affair the entire time. Everybody knew except for Richard liked Camilla. Listen, if you weren't convinced before that she named them that to give a little Easter egg to let you know there was something in the buttermilk that wasn't white, let me tell you. Okay, I did a little Googling for the timeline. So for those of us that know Tartt, we know she takes about 10 years to write each book. She took 10 years writing The Secret History. It was published in 1992, placing the starting date for her writing her novel in 1981, the year that Princess Diana and now King Charles tied the knot. Well, interesting. What proceeded to happen over their decade-long marriage and affair that was hinted at and scrutinized and talked about in the public, right? Like I said, history was published in 1992. In 1993, the bombshell voicemails and recordings came out of their affair, and they were made public, and it was final confirmation to what everybody in the UK media had been speculating for years. So Tartt was literally writing this book at peak. That's your man. That's not your man. Oh my god, she's so smart. Like, of course she would put those names in there and name them after those two, so that way if you knew, you knew. Like, if you know, you know. It's like everyone knows what's going on between Charles and Camilla, except for Diana, except for Richard, the people's princess, the one who wants us to love him more than anything, is so oblivious to everything. He pretends to not know that Camilla and Henry have a thing, even though he frequently mentions catching them coming back flushed and sweaty and excited and full of joy. He knows what's going on. He is not dumb. He just can't admit it to himself. And if there's gonna be one girl in the classics class, she's gonna date Richard. And if she doesn't, he's not having that. That's why another one of my theories is he completely is lying about every single time that she kisses him. I don't think Camilla has ever kissed Richard. I think Camilla has only ever been friendly to Richard. I think that it's convenient that every single time she kisses him, it doesn't happen in front of anybody, and it happens in the middle of nowhere. There's no lead up and there's no build up. She just kisses him out of the blue before or after a conversation, meaning Richard doesn't have to sit here and structure a situation to the listener slash reader or whoever he's telling the story to about a time in which Camilla would want to kiss him. My second one is something I talked about on TikTok and it went a little bit viral and got a lot of views and people were like arguing in the comments. I don't care, argue with the wall. Richard is not from California, he's from Texas. Specifically Plano, Texas. Let me tell you why. Every single other place that they go to in this book exists. Vermont, California, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, Italy, except for the college that they're at is in a fake town. And the place that Richard comes from doesn't exist. Missouri exists, where Bunny grows up exists, Virginia exists, yet Richard says that he lives in Plano, California, a small Silicon Valley in the north. In a passage where he's talking about a coat that he got at the Salvation Army in San Francisco to keep him warm, he refers to San Francisco as the north. Why would you, as somebody who lives in Silicon Valley, refer to San Francisco as working up north? He also describes where he lives as an extremely desert-like climate. It's about blacktop and tar and it being super dry and desert-like. Not the temperature or climate of Northern California. Very bizarre. So his dad owns a gas station, which I do think he could own like a gas station in a podunk town in Northern California. When Richard is talking to Bunny, he says that his dad has oil money and he's lying, and he says, well, we have one well because we have a gas station. Gas station only has one well of oil. Makes no sense. Also, when they get the financial aid information from Hampden College, it says that his family's contribution is worth more than his parents are willing to contribute. Financial aid goes based off of income. And I know it's not the best situation. There are a lot of people who can't afford to send their kids to college, but can afford to live comfortable lives. But all of these Easter eggs combine with the fact that somehow Richard is able to survive the measly salary that he gets from Dr. Rowland, all without ever asking for a penny, and also ignoring ever having to converse with his parents in front of the reader. Present day, he calls his mom once, writes her a postcard, and he refuses to go home. We're never forced to see Richard interact with his parents, therefore we never get his parents' side of the story. We never hear what they say. He also says they fell in with a childless couple called the McNatts, and they go on cruises and they go on vacations and they do all of these things. It just seems to me that he's not being honest about where he lives, how he grew up, and I think he finds his life to be plain. I think he finds growing up in Plano, Texas and growing up in the South to be plain and uninteresting. And just like he sells the story of living in LA, he sells the story of living in California. I think that Julian would have been equally as impressed if he was from a Silicon Valley village outside of San Francisco or in Northern California. Julian himself says he doesn't even know many people from California, and the only other person that we're really introduced to that we know for sure, well, in the beginning of the book, there's other people later that are from California, but ours Judy Poovey, and she's from LA. So it's just very, very interesting. And I also think that's why he loves the twins so much, because he can relate to them. And they're also not as well off as someone like Henry or Frances. Donna Tartt herself is also from the South and only landed at Bennington by what Richard would call a trick of fate after getting like 1,000,001 recommendation letters and scholarships. So keep that in mind. I'm just saying, he gives very much Southern gentleman vibes. Well, Richard's not really a gentleman, but you know what I mean. This next theory is something that I haven't really fully thought out of. I feel like something happened with Henry and Bunny when they were living together, because like maybe there was a secret relationship. Maybe they were kind of like, they were roommates. They were roommates freshman year. Henry moved out and lived by himself. He never lived with anybody else. And he could have just moved in by himself. There's no rule that says you have to live in the dorms your freshman year at Hampden. So Henry wasn't opposed to living with people until he spent a year living with Bunny. Why is that? Bunny went to Jamaica after their falling out and them subsequently not living there. He begged and begged Henry to come down, but it had no culture, which of course that's my baby, but he's stupid. And then I was thinking, when Bunny and Richard originally go out to lunch, this is before the farmer, right? So why would Henry pay over almost $300 for Bunny? Yeah, he doesn't want Bunny to get embarrassed and get stuck with a check, or maybe he feels sorry for Richard because he's like a new person, new friend. Henry does not care. We've seen time and time again, Henry if he don't want to care, he's not gonna care. If he doesn't want to give it his energy, he's not gonna give it his energy. So very confusing to me that he comes to save the day, walks in and says, where's the check? And Bunny's just talking and he's joking. It's like when I call my exes to like pick me up drunk. I'm kidding. Just got me thinking like something else is going on there. Something else happened between them. But I also don't necessarily think that Bunny knew about the farmer before they went to Italy. Hear me out. Hear me out. I know that he was saying farmer in the Dell and he was talking about jail and stuff. Bunny had no confirmation of anything until they went to Italy. Now, is Richard lying to us? Was he making these jokes? Was he singing farmer in the Dell? Was he talking about cops? We don't know because Richard's a liar. Bunny has tons of other friends. When he passes away, the entire school is mourning him, even people that he necessarily made rude comments about. So to say that Bunny is unequivocally hated and annoying is simply not true. In fact, outside of any of the other classic students, he's really the only one with a life. He has Marion, he has friends, and I think that unwillingness to completely assimilate is another thing that really irked Henry. Bunny is excluded from the Buckeye because they see him eating in the canteen, because Bunny is probably like, I'm not gonna starve myself to see some freaking Greek god. You guys are weirdos, which real, like I'm not gonna starve to see Dionysus. I think Henry, although he felt betrayed and annoyed, was kind of looking for any way not to have him included, as Bacchanalia are primarily sex rituals, which is why when he tells Richard about it, Richard's like, I'm not liking this ratio because it's just you, Francis, Charles, and Camilla. Francis told us that he slept with Charles before, he just won't admit it. He doesn't say when or how many times, but I would not be surprised if the Buckeye was one of them. I wouldn't want to sit there and watch my ex hook up with people either. I'm just saying, maybe that's why Henry didn't want Bunny there. By reaching, I don't know. It's just like every time I listen to like the piazza and then the fact that they got like rooms that were adjoining and Henry was sick and he was laying in bed and Bunny decided to read his journal and he was referring to him as annoying little rabbit.
That boy is gay, and I really believe that.
Bunny was disgusted and appalled and shocked that they did what they did. He wasn't upset that he wasn't included, like Henry alluded to Richard that he would be. Talking again about the farmer, another theory I have is that the farmer's death was not homicide as it was suggested in the novel, but instead he was killed by like a big animal, and said animal attacked and chased the students through the woods, and then they subsequently had to kill it. I say this because that farmer was torn to shreds, entrails out. Like, police said that he was killed by a wild animal, right? They didn't say it was murder, they didn't say it was hacked to bits. He literally looked shredded with claws. Plus, Charles had a bite on him that was too big for any human to have made, and they said that they ran and ran and ran in the woods. So I would not be surprised if they came across this animal attack happening and then they were chased like deer through the woods and through the forest. I also think it's interesting that apparently they all killed the farmer and they all had a part in it. Camilla, who was wearing all white, had not one drop of blood on her except for in her hands, as if she had like rubbed her hands through her hair like, oh my god, what did we just do? I definitely don't think that there was a murder committed, and I think that makes Bunny's murder all the more sinister and just disturbing when you think about it, because this entire time they're worried that their friend is going to get them charged for this murder, where theoretically the medical examiner can be like, no, we literally found like bone fragment in him, we know he was eviscerated by a bear, and they would be let off scot-free. But they're so scared of going to prison for murder that they commit a murder. Like, wouldn't it be crazy of Tart if they hadn't actually hurt the farmer and it had been an animal all along and they would have been found innocent? If they just trusted that Bunny wouldn't do that and they trusted that Bunny wouldn't sell them out, they treated him nicely. I don't know. I'm not saying Bunny's a good person who's worthy of good treatment, but I'm just saying if my friend walking around telling everybody I unalive somebody, that would be my bestie. Like, I'd be like, once we locked in, ain't no switching up. So the fact that they were just so like, we gotta get rid of Bunny, I'm like. And before like he comes back and he starts treating everybody like shit and everybody basically gets on board with unaliving him, he literally sent Julian the letter and was like, hey, this happened and I think they're gonna kill me. We already knew something was up. Oh, I don't know, like, I don't know. Henry burnt his journal, right? I always wondered if Henry wrote about the fact that like they would have to kill Bunny in his journal. And that's why he left. Just left him stranded in Rome. I don't know. Am I spitballing? Am I spitballing? Like, Easter egg that I really liked is like Richard's entire thing is about fitting in, right? And money and all of this stuff. When he originally goes to see Dr. Rowland and he gives him that $200 something, Richard is like, oh my god, I can finally fit in. I'm gonna go to Hamden Town. I'm gonna buy gold cufflinks with someone else's initials on them. I'm gonna buy like this beat up jacket, but it like looks nice or whatever. He doesn't have to pay, like it's Bunny's treat, so he's just trying to look the part. The jacket he buys ends up being freaking hot for the weather that it is. Gets saved by Judy Poopy. Bunny still is like, ugh, your jacket. So all of this is a waste, right? But what would have impressed Bunny is if they would have sat down, got the bill, and it was $270, and Richard went in his wallet and was like, I only have like 200 bucks on me. Do you have the rest? Can you call someone for the rest? That would have been so impressive, and the fact that he would have had $200 in cash on him at that time, the power dynamic in the group would have instantly changed. I feel like Bunny would have latched onto Richard in a way that he latched onto the others, and Henry wouldn't have also understood that Richard is in this vulnerable place where he can manipulate him. I talked about it in my explaining the plot, but once Henry has it in his mind that Bunny has to go, he immediately comes to see Richard and he offers him a warm place to stay, and he offers him his bed, and he's treating him like his best friend, and he's putting him in on all his plans, and Richard's his go-to guy, and he's like, I need you to drive me into Hamden. I need you to pretend we're doing this, pretend we're doing that. And Richard's kind of like his baby driver, his number two. And once Bunny's gone and the police are there, Richard again falls to the back burner and the wayside. And that's when he starts to openly critique Henry to the reader and kind of like question and disagree with what Henry's doing. So I think it would have been so interesting to see how this book would have went if Richard would have went through it as an equal. Because Henry knew from jump that Richard wasn't happy where he was from. He asked him, and Richard let him know that he isn't happy and that his parents don't really care much for him. Speaking of Richard's parents, I guess my last little Easter egg thing is like they have to have money. Like they have to have money. Flies to Hamden, lives there, has all of his supplies. Just Dr. Rowland's salary that keeps him afloat doesn't make any sense. Doesn't want to go back home. He risks death in a warehouse, but still has like money to survive. Traveling up to New York, he's staying in the Brooklyn for the summer, house sitting and working a job. And then he moves to California with Sophie Dearbold, and I'm like, who is fund? Like, where are you getting these funds from? This little measly money that Dr. Rowland's giving you? I personally always felt like either his parents had more money than he let on, and he didn't want any of them to know, and or he had money saved up, or that his parents had given to him because his parents are well off, but they cut him off because he didn't want to go to school. Richard says that his dad wanted him to take over the gas station business. He was unhappy that Richard was going to medical school. That doesn't make any sense to me. I personally feel like they potentially wanted Richard to go to school for business, to take over their business, and he wanted to go to school for literature, and they cut him off. They're like, if you go to Hamden, you're cut off. Yeah, those are my theories about the secret history and just little things that like don't make sense and little plot holes. I might do a part 2 to this because I'm sure you guys will bring up things in the comments that I haven't thought about. But I want to do more just like casual videos where I'm just like talking. It doesn't have to be like a 10 paragraph 19-page script that I've like worked 4 weeks on. I just want to be like more casual and like share my thoughts and stuff with you guys too, and just like talk to you like I would talk to my friends, but not in a creepy way. Is it? Okay, sorry. Also, please comment down below any more bookish videos you guys would like to see from me. Maybe some more book recaps or book reviews. I love books just as much as I love TV and movies, so I love to incorporate them more on the channel and talk about things other than secret history. I'm a big fantasy buff. I love dark academia. I love face smut. Like, I am an equal opportunity bookish girl. So comment down below anything you'd like to see from me, and I will see you all in my next video. Love you. Bye. Wait, that was cute. Okay, bye.